Welcome to Planet Marzipan podcast,
your fish and Marillion podcast,
where we talk about all things in the planet of Marillion and fish. I'm Mezza, and here's my mate,
Craig Houston.
Hello and welcome to the latest Planet Marzipan podcast. I'm Mezza and I'm here with my mate.
Well, I'm going to be Craig this time, not Craig.
You're going to be Craig on your best behaviour, yes.
I haven't got me dressed to be feather board.
No. We've got a very special guest today. We're so pleased to be joined by Steve Hogarth. Welcome, Steve.
The remains of Steve Hogarth.
We'll accept the remains. Thank you very much for joining us.
I should have brought the feather boa, all things considered, but
you should have.
It's not here. I've got the rug.
Oh yeah, the famous rug. We'd like to talk a little bit about your solo stuff, if that's okay.
Yes, I'll do my best to remember.
Okay, so February '97, you issued the Ice Cream Genius album.
Yeah, God, it was a long time ago, wasn't it?
It was a while ago.
We were all spring chickens back then.
How did that sort of project come about? Can you give us a little bit of an insight into the sort of the genesis of that?
Yeah, I'd always imagined I'd do some solo work after I joined the band. I didn't think much about it, I don't suppose, until maybe when we're writing Holidays in Eden, I was starting to feel a little bit like I'd got some good stuff that the band didn't want to use. I think even, as legends now has it, when we were writing Season's End, if the band ever got stuck for ideas, they'd ask me what I got in the bucket, and I had Easter in the bucket. But I also had Nothing to Declare in the bucket. And they had a listen to that one. Nah. And it was kind of funny because maybe they just couldn't imagine what it could become, because years later, after Ice Cream Genius came out, Rothery sidled up to me and went, "Oh, I really like that track, Nothing to Declare. I think that's my favourite." And I said, "Well, I offered you that in 1989 and you all went, nah." So there we are. But he couldn't remember it, and he couldn't remember me offering it. But I'm pretty certain I did. Yeah. So that went back that far. And by the time we were kind of halfway through our difficult second album, writing Holidays in Eden, I was starting to feel a little bit frustrated I was frustrated across the board because I was frantically trying to finish all the songs they were writing. And they didn't want to. They never wanted to finish anything. And I was always going, well, we could do this and we could do this. And why don't we go back there? And why don't we get... And what I didn't really realize was that they didn't really function in a sort of verse, chorus, middle eight format, which is what I'd been so used to.
Yeah.
And so whenever I tried to finish a song for them or suggest, ways forward, I was met by, "Oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Maybe we should just leave it for a little while."
You were still in the sort of what you were doing with How We Live, presumably,
yeah, I was
out songs.
Maybe I was in that mindset a little bit, and although I think that was a brush it was easy to tar me with at that point. It might have been a bit of an oversimplification because, I'd done a lot of work that was way outside of a pop format in my, with my earlier bands. But nonetheless, I had to find a way during Holidays in Eden to slow down to the speed that Marillion were used to writing. And I still have days when I wonder if I've quite got used to it. On the upside, the band writes so slowly, it gives me plenty of time to sort my lyrics out. So in a way, I'd rather have it this way than the other way, where we're rattling through the songs and we're in the studio recording them, and I still don't feel like I've thought them through myself or had chance to work, develop the lyrics or work them up. So I always have plenty of time to do that. I can't claim that as an excuse these days. But I suppose I'm getting around to answering your question. Your question was, did I always want to do that? And I guess I sort of did. And during the first few albums that we wrote together, the first few Marillion albums, there would inevitably be a song or a half a song that I was quite excited about that I couldn't get unanimous approval on.
Yeah.
That's still true right up to today. There are things, we're five different people with five different ideas of what a good thing is. And so it can be quite hard to get a consensus. If all five of us like something, it better be pretty bloody good because we're so picky. And so invariably there are things that fall by the wayside. These days I'm more inclined to think, well, maybe they're right. Maybe there is something wrong with this. Maybe this is only all right and not amazing. But back then I was less inclined to back down, I suppose, in my mind. And so, as the cliche would have it, I felt like things were getting stuck in the pipe.
Yeah.
And the pipe needed clearing, to free me up for more stuff, with the band. That was part of it. Also, I wanted to do something a bit more rough and ready, I suppose. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Something that valued energy as much as beard stroking. Perhaps. That's why I could put it. And I'm not. These aren't criticisms. These are just
No.
trying to explain how I was feeling. There'd been an awful lot of beard stroking, and some of the kind of more energetic things. You got to remember that I'd come out of a sort of post-punk area. I'd been listening to a lot of electronic music, been listening to a lot of 80s music, I've been listening to XTC and Talk Talk and Japan, and I was very fortunate to end up with members of some of those bands working on my album, which was a dream come true for me. To have bumped into via Steve Wilson and bumped into Steve to Richard Barbieri and to have persuaded Dave Gregory to get involved in it was dreamlike for me. So I was thrilled to bits. And then Dave suggested perhaps Craig Leon could help and he could produce it. Dave had done some work with Craig and said he was a good man and he liked working with him. I think I went to Dave in the end and said, who could produce this? If you got anybody you think could be right for this kind of thing. And he suggested Craig. Craig promptly suggested Clem Burke and Chucho Michan as a rhythm section because I think he'd worked with them. I immediately, of course, knew who they were because I know all about Blondie and I had the Parallel Lines album like everybody else did back in the day. It was such a huge, huge record. And I liked Clem's, punky and yet accurate, trashy and yet solid. Not many drummers have got both those things going on at once. He's got a unique, energetic, trashy and yet solid approach to drumming, which sort of owes something perhaps to punk and the Ramones and the Talking Heads a bit more than it owes to these super tight drummers like Steve Gadd. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Omar Hakim.
Yeah.
But he's incredibly tight. He's not trashy. He's not punky.
No.
He's extremely posh. And I liked the idea of something a little bit rough and ready, and yet tight. And I thought Clem and Chucho would be. I ran into Chucho in Rio years ago when They were well, he was with the Eurythmics. We did a big show with that on the same bill as the Eurythmics in Rio, and Chicho was floating around the hotel, and I kind of caught his vibe from afar. He's one of these, a South American kind of characters. So when he was in the room, you knew about it, even if you weren't with him, and I liked that. So I like the idea of that. Although my only regret with the band really was I kind of wished I could have had the Talking Heads rhythm section, and in the end, I very, very nearly did.
Wow, that would have been cool, yeah.
Well, I was going to have them play on Really Like, because I thought that Tina and Chris would have been perfect for that. And then we'd done the Brave album, hadn't we, by then? And we had an engineer on the Brave album called Jeffrey Hooper, Welsh, beautiful engineer. As his cousin once said, "Shame is such a cunt." And Jeff was, I don't know. If he wasn't a genius, he was close. He was one of the best engineers I ever worked with. And I think he does Tom Jones and Shirley Bassey and people like that now.
Wow.
But he'd been out front sound man for a lot of people in the 80s and the 70s, and I think he'd done the Clash and the Talking Heads. So of course he knew the Talking Heads. So I phoned him up and tapped him up for a number for Chris and Tina, and I got a hold of Chris France and asked him if he'd be up for coming over to England with Tina and playing on this song of mine. And they were too busy to do it. And they said, "Look, if you send us the masters, we'll do it in our studio and send it back." And so I was that close to having them play on the album, and then we kind of ran out of time.
Oh.
It wasn't so much money and budget. It was just time, and I was getting up against deadlines, and Craig couldn't see the point of farming all the masters out to him, copying them all, sending them to America. It was a much more involved process back then. It would have been dead easy now.
Yeah, for some.
We could have done it like clicking of fingers for threepence now, but back then it was money and time. So in the end, it never happened, and I regret that to this day, because I think Chris and Tina would have energized Really Like and given it that kind of Tom Tom Club Talking Heads feeling.
I mean, it's a great track as it is, but yes, it would have been fantastic to hear that rhythm section on it, wouldn't it?
If it's time for a remaster and a reissue, you could always sidle up again.
I suppose I could. Yeah, I could sidle up again. I don't know how old they are now. They're probably about 90.
Oh no, they've just been doing some promo for Stop Making Sense reissue.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, the four of them together. It was interesting.
Oh wow,
that's an interesting band dynamic now.
Strike while the air's hot, and while they're still vertical.
Well, yeah, and the problem I've always got, and I kind of had it even then, was time. People are always saying to me, "Wouldn't it be great if you did this?" And I go, "Yeah, absolutely would." When?
Stick some more hours in the day.
Give me a time machine and a lot of Red Bull, and I'll see if I can do it. But it's just finding the time. I've always got shit going on.
What's your favourite track from Ice Cream Genius?
Well, I'm going to look at the track list now and answer that question. It's a tricky one to answer that.
Bit like choosing your favourite child, is it?
Well, a little bit. It's slightly easier than that, but favourite is such a strange word as well, because you can always have, you can always look at these things through so many different prisms. I thought when we'd finished the mix, I thought You Dinosaur Thing was pretty exquisite and did everything I'd hoped it would do.
Yeah.
Having said that, when I heard the mix of The Last Thing, I loved the darkness of it.
It's an epic track. Yeah, epic track.
The bass on that, the bass on The Last Thing is just, it's evil. It's evil.
That's Richard, Rob. Yeah,
it's evil.
It's him. He is a genius.
And if I remember right, at the Dingwalls, I think my rib cage was vibrating so much when I played it live.
That was Glenn Burke, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. that was great, and that was one that we just sort of knocked that song off almost like a jam on the fly after the album was finished, really,
Right?
right at the very tail end, and I wanted to put it on the album, and Craig didn't, because I don't think Craig had felt involved in it, like he'd had the vision, so it didn't feel like part of his statement, and so he was a bit less than enthusiastic about it. Um, and so it didn't go on the record. And then later on, we did another version of the album, and I added it.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think of it as a poor relation. I think of it in its own way as as my favorite. And I think Better Dreams is my
Oh,
favorite. I think of Nothing to Declare as my favorite a little bit as well. I could almost go the other way and tell you which my least favorites are. They're sort of all my favorites, apart from maybe Until You Fall, which was just a bit of fun, really, and a bit, an attempt to write a really short, to the point, trashy 60s song.
I think it's
Uh,
great following Cage. It changes the mood and sets you up for Better Dreams and Nothing to Declare, which are just, I
yeah,
have to say, you've written some cracking lyrics, H, that have really, really got to me. But Better Dreams is one of your best lyrics ever. The
actually,
characterization is just fantastic.
well, it took me years to write that lyric. I'd been chipping away at that on and off for years and years and years and years, and putting it back on the shelf. And then every time I went to LA, I got it back out and had another look and thought, no, that's not what I think of this city. I'm going to change that. And then, it'd go back on the shelf, and then I'd go to LA again and take it down again, have another look and go, no, that isn't it either. I've changed my mind. I think it's more like this now. And so I kept altering what I wanted to say about Los Angeles. And I guess if I hadn't finished recording it, I'd probably change it again now,
Right.
because LA is one of those places where every time I've gone there, I've still I've changed my mind about it. The first time I went there, I thought it was great. The second time I went there, I thought, no, it's not. It's a hollow, horrible place. And then the third time I went there, I thought, oh, maybe I've been too hard about this city. It's not that bad. And then I went again. Yes, it is. It's a rotten, insubstantial, hollow place. And so I kept my what I wanted to say kept swinging around, and so that lyric happened to be something I'd worked on for years,
Yeah.
and arguably still isn't finished in my head. Um,
Just the description of Leo that is just, it's just brilliant.
well, I used to watch them going by. I used to sit and drink coffee on Sunset, and watch them going by in their Ferrari, their shiny Ferraris, with the girlfriend du jour.
Yeah.
Um, and then, and I remember saying to, I don't know who I was with, but a local, saying, God, there's a lot of money in this town, and either him or her saying to me, yeah, well, what you got to remember, that car is probably all he's got. It's
Yeah.
all about showing off
Yeah.
this town. And
Yeah.
because if you look successful, you're halfway there. Um, and so that kind of bred that character, Leo.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. I just love the version on Friends Roman as well. Just you and the piano. It's exquisite. Really good.
Thank you.
Um, and then I've always had a soft spot for Nothing to Declare as well. It's a great, great finish to the original album.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I'd kind of written that at home with just a little Yamaha box, this big, which had the little drum sounds in it, and had also the pizzicato violins in it. So the bare bones of it was all written in a little box, the palm of my hand, and then it was fleshed out. And when Richard B got involved, I remember saying to Richard Barbieri, what would be really cool if this song started with a gong that turned into a jet engine. Did you think you could make one of those? And he went, Yeah, I think so. And he put his headphones on, and he'd got a Prophet 5 synthesizer, and I don't know, some other box I didn't know the name of. And he took the headphone, he took it, I mean, I'm talking 3 minutes. He gave me the headphones back. What, you mean like that? And he pressed the kick on. Holy shit. How do you make that out of a synthesizer in no time whatsoever? He's an extraordinarily brilliant programmer. So you can just, I mean, he made an elephant for me as well for, where's the elephant? What's the elephant in?
It's in the end of Cage, is it?
I can't remember, but there are elephants that he made on a Prophet 5. So when he got involved in it, it sort of took something else on as well, and they kind of took on a slight flavour of tin drum, which I was all too happy to hear happen. But Cage as well, I'm very fond of. Mike, our current genius, studio genius, Mike Hunter, helped me put Cage together in the front room at home one Saturday morning, and of course it's all just written around that funny little sample that was a library sample in the Kurzweil, and you press a key and you go, and so just the eccentricity of that sound source really was perfect for the idea of Cage, of staring at a cage waiting for a letter, but at the same time being in a cage waiting to be fed. I kind of got those two parallel notions going on as well.
It's one of my favourite songs on the album.
Yeah, it's always great fun to perform live.
It's a good live one. Yeah.
It's great live.
Because it's a chance to do a bit of acting instead of just singing. I can be that little hamster waiting to be fed at the same time as I'm singing the song.
There's a really nice demo of Until You Fall with Mike Hunter on the Cage EP.
Oh, that's going back a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there now? You see, I've no idea what I've released. Oh, that'll be Mike playing the guitar then, I bet.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But it's a nice, just a sparse arrangement. But there's also a great version of Emily play from the Body and Spirit gigs as well. But
yeah, that used to be great fun doing that. Yeah, in me feather boa, me pigtails.
It was great fun. It was a good laugh. I loved Dinosaur Thing as a single. I thought it was absolutely cracking single.
I thought it was a hit, but it went to radio and they all hated it. The thing, maybe it was the lyric. It was a piss take of a lyric about you think you're the next thing, you think you're so cool, but you're already out of fashion, sunshine. Maybe that was all just a little bit too nasty.
Well, too close to the bone, really, too close to the truth.
And mind you, though, you had more chance of hunting down camel crap in the Antarctic as finding Dinosaur Thing in the shops at the time, though. I think.
Well, what happened? I mean, another one of the great, what's the word? Just throw yourself off the roof moments of my career, if you call it a career, was the day that my album was released. The day my album was released, I went to see Steely Dan in Wembley Arena, and happened to sit in front of a couple of blokes from the music business who were discussing the fact that my record label had just gone tits up. They hadn't told me. I mean, wow. I was just an artist. Why would they phone me up and go, "Well, it's over"?
They're clearing out the offices.
The whole thing is over and done, and we're really, really sorry, but basically you're screwed before you're released. No one even had the decency to make that phone call, and I heard about it at a gig. So that rather took the shine off the gig for me, as you can imagine. And I've had a few moments in my career where I've just wanted to shoot myself. And it's almost as though I was never meant to be that successful. That whatever I do there's always I call it the unseen hand. So the unseen hand is going to kill this before it's born. I've said that to the boys. You know, you had it because the unseen hand will kill it. Um, and that's happened to me a few times really over the years. I mean, the first band I was in, the Europeans, we were kind of poised to conquer the world when A&M went tits up.
Mm.
You know, and the label just went down. And Jeff Dugmore from the Europeans phoned me up, and because he phones up about once every 2 years just to say hi, and he
What's the doom and gloom this time?
phoned me up the other night, and he said, "Oh, I was talking to." He said I got invited to a get together for all the people who used to work at A&M. We had this get together, and I was invited to it, and I went. And he said the managing director, Derek Green, crossed the room and said to me, "I'm so sorry for what happened to your band when the label went down." He said, because everyone in the label loved your band and everyone in the label knew your band was going to happen and be the next big thing for us. And then the Americans pulled the plug and it was over. So that was kind of what happened, you know. And then this happened to me again with the solo album. The night I sang at Donald Campbell's funeral, I was going to be item one on the 6 o'clock news, and the Twin Towers came down.
Yeah.
So the unseen hand has always kind of gone, I don't think so, sunshine.
Well, what are you saying, Steve? This is the last episode of our podcast. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
We're doomed.
if you hear the fire alarm, come and investigate.
I was going to ask you because the solo album originally went out just under the title of H. Do you think that was the right thing to do?
Well, it wasn't wise, but I guess I wanted to get famous on my own terms. I didn't want to be that bloke who's the singer of Marillion. I didn't want it being judged like that. I wanted it as a separate thing. So I sort of changed my name in order to do that. But yeah, in commercial terms, it's not wise, I guess, because you're deliberately taking the one advantage you've got out there in the place and throwing a cloak over it. I mean, that's a bit like what Japan did when they got back. They reformed and called themselves Rain Tree Crow.
Yeah.
Nobody knew it was them. But that's the kind of shit you do when the art matters more to you than the marketplace, you know, and wanting to be judged for what you are rather than anything else, rather than anything.
I mean, the Americans went the other way and put the album out under your name with a sticker on saying the current lead singer of Marillion. So
it's always going to happen.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, these days I just wouldn't bother because I know it's all a waste. All those things are a waste of time. I mean, if I put a solo tour on sale that's gonna sell out without any advertising, still, if they put a poster up, they'll say the singer was Marillion, the voice Marillion, just in case you don't know who I am. That's just what people do, and there's no point getting upset about it. I used to get so annoyed about it.
Really?
Oh, fuck yeah. I used to be incandescent with rage and indignation, but I don't anymore. I woke up and smelt the beans as the first line of Until You Fall.
Absolutely, yeah.
No one's going to help you.
But the gigs for Ice Cream Genius, and was it February of 97?
February, yeah. The garage.
The garage, that was brilliant gig.
It was brilliant.
Oh, they were great shows. I mean, I put it together. I used to look over my shoulder and think, look at my band. How on earth have I done this? How on earth have I got this bunch of people into a room together?
Because that was the old garage, wasn't it? That was the smaller one.
Yeah.
Before the big room, yeah.
Such a privilege to be on stage with that bunch of people. And if anything, that went up a notch. Well, maybe it didn't go up a notch, but Clem couldn't do the next tour, and I mean, eventually Andy Gangadine got involved.
Yeah.
So to be on a stage with Andy drumming and Richard and Dave and Aziz
Yeah.
was such a privilege. I couldn't believe how I'd managed to do it.
Well, the Body and Spirit gigs, that was an incredible 2 nights at Dingwalls.
It was. I mean, when you think it was just a tiny little club with 8 people on stage.
Yeah.
8 really disparate elements on stage as well.
They were hot and sweaty 2 nights. They were.
It was warm. Well, it was August, wasn't it? So it was warm. It was warm. How did you go about picking the covers for that, Steve? Just songs that meant a lot to you?
Yeah, I just got feeling. Things that I always wanted to do. You know, I love Dream Brother. I love that Jeff Buckley album. And by that point, I'd got Andy in the band, and I thought, well, if there's a drummer on earth apart from Jeff's drummer, Matt Johnson, who can nail this drum groove, it's probably Andy. So we'll give it a go. And that came together really well. And again, it has that sort of darkness. I don't mean the band, the darkness. I mean actual spooky pitch black shit, which the H band was excellent at summoning up. You know, to try and summon up demons from the floor is I was trying to do that sort of thing some of the time. You know, I'd be going around and shaking the sleigh bells in my feather boa, trying to be shamanic, you know, and having great fun doing it, whilst Aziz was making all those mad noises and Richard was making all those even madder noises. It was like a sonic duel those two had going on, trying to outdo each other. Wonderful. I enjoyed every minute of it. It was hard work.
I'll bet, because, you know, completely different set list over the 2 nights.
Yeah.
Just for Old Wild Men, the cover of Old Wild Men is just brilliant.
Yeah, I loved that album for that. I think that's on the Sheet Music album. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Sheet Music is the last song. What a beautiful, beautiful, brilliant song in every way.
And Man of the World, the Peter Green Man of the World.
Yeah,
it's just a brilliant version. It really is.
Well, for me, you know, it's not all about the lyrics, but the lyrics have got such a lot to do with why I rate a song. So maybe with the exception of, I mean, Syd Barrett's lyrics weren't profound, but they were always kind of interesting and bonkers and clever. So I guess See Emily Play isn't profound, but there's something wonderful about it as a song, you know. Put on a gown that touches the ground. Whoa, can't argue with that.
Not at all. There's no answer to that, is there, really? And then you allowed, I think there was both nights Aziz got to do an instrumental, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it used to start each night with, you know, something sort of dark and woven, usually involving Aziz and Richard working together.
Was that his Zen and Now, if I remember?
That's in the middle of the set, yeah. It's quite heavy, yeah. It's quite heavy.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's the first time I ever heard of Aziz Ibrahim. I don't think I was in Oswestry, and a friend called Phil Beaumont played me that. He said, have you heard about this guitarist, this Asian guitarist called Aziz Ibrahim, who's combining sort of Asian and Chinese scales with rock? And I went, no, that sounds interesting. And he said, have a listen to this. And he played me that. He played me that, and it knocked me out. So then after that, I was on a bit of a mission to meet him and to inveigle him into my oeuvre.
I know there's a gig in South Shields, the solo gig that Aziz did, and me and Mark Kennedy went.
Yeah.
We had H band T-shirts at the front, which caused them much hilarity, because I think we were the only people there who'd actually knew him from the H band. Everybody else was all Ian Brown stuff and solo stuff.
They still hustle me, whenever I see it, he goes, when are we going to go and do another H tour?
It's not a bad suggestion. I know it's time, but yeah, it's not a bad suggestion.
I see Andy Gang and he goes, we're going to do another H tour. So I don't think I'd have much trouble persuading them to do it. I think persuading myself would be the hardest part of it.
Because of the work involved?
The work and the time, and finding a time to go out and do it. And I don't know, I think I tried to put another H band tour with in a slightly different format. I tried to put that together a few years back, and it sold about 6 tickets. So the H band's one of these bands that a lot of people talk fondly about, but maybe not enough people.
Is that the tour that was advertised as you and Richard?
I can't remember.
Yeah, it was the hand that can't erase. Yeah.
All right, not the weapon, but the hand.
Not the weapon, but the hand.
Yeah.
I'm getting confused.
I still can't believe. I know so many people that had tickets for those gigs. I don't know how that fell through. I really don't.
It fell apart because none of the Germans bought tickets, and the German promoter Udo, he's not really a promoter. He's more of a sort of a mate who did it. And he came to me and he said, if we go ahead with this tour, I'm going to lose my house. Wow. And I said, I can't do that to you. And so, because the German part of the tour fell apart, the overall financial logic of it fell apart with it.
Right.
It all had to go. And that I felt like my fingers were burning at that point. And it taught me that a lot of people like yourselves, with every respect in the world, coming to me saying, wouldn't it be great if you did that? Doesn't mean it'll sell
thousands of seats.
2,000 tickets. Yeah. I might make 300 people across Europe very happy. But
I think that's changed. I mean, it's easy for me to say because it's not me putting anything at risk, but I think that's changed now, Steve. With the amount of people you get to H Natural, I mean, the levels on that, the attendance levels have just gone up and up, haven't they? And that's a solo show.
Yeah, I guess people have slowly cottoned on or got into something that I'm doing. But
so I think the last H band show that we saw was it Union Chapel?
I think
was that
so,
the last?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's Garage, Dingwalls, and Union Chapel.
Yeah,
so that's going back to about.
That's what we did.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah. Is there any chance of Ice Cream Genius coming out on vinyl, Steve?
I don't see why not. I think it's one of those things that Lucy's been pondering and I've been pondering. It wouldn't be a lot of work, I don't think, to do it. So, yeah, every chance, really. I mean, it would be a bit niche. Again, it's not going to sell tens of thousands of copies, but maybe we'd sell, I don't know, maybe sell a couple of thousand copies, who knows?
Sure you would. I'm sure you would.
There's no point having all these things on a shelf in a warehouse, that's the thing.
No.
So it's always, you kind of got to be careful. But they're not the Weapon vinyl that Snapper did. What's that label called? The K-Scope.
K-Scope. I think so, yeah.
They've always trickled along. They've been very popular when I've played live shows. They've sold, and I think I've sold those out now. I'm really glad I did them. I probably haven't got a copy of one. I haven't got a copy of one of the records I've made.
Have you not?
No, just take up space in the house.
Just more clutter.
Can we talk a little bit about Friends and Romans?
I don't know what to do with them. Yeah, of course we can.
The DVD and the CD of that show from how many years ago is it now? 2017.
Right.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's virtually a H Natural crossed with a Less Is More Marillion set. You've got another date coming up, haven't you, on the 3rd of February with Ranastrana?
I have. It'll be upon me before I know it. It's only a fortnight away now. And that's ended up turning into quite a big deal. Originally, I was just going to do Rome in amongst the 8 solo shows in December. And then Dave couldn't get a hall in December, and then he got all excited because he's got this fabulous hall in Rome, this fabulous room, and it's quite a prestigious sort of place to play, and they normally have classical people on there. And but it's quite large. I think it's 700 capacity, 700 or 800. And then he said, "Well, wouldn't it be lovely to recreate, or to have to do a show with Run Strain again?" And I said, "Well, it would, but when?" And then he said, "Well, what about February?" And I thought, "Oh, that's really not ideal. I'm supposed to be making a Marillion album, supposed to be writing. And I've forgotten all the songs by then. I'll have to rehearse it all again. Even, in the middle of December, I was right. It was all in my muscle memory, It was
Yeah.
So now I've got to get all that together. The boys are busy rehearsing in Rome to get ready for it. I will join them a couple of days before the show and rehearse with them. So I'm just hoping it'll all be all right. Finding the time to think about it and answer all the emails and listen to what they're doing and pass comment and suggest changes all takes time. And I'm supposed to be writing a Marillion album, so I'm a little bit stressed out as we speak. In fact, you're very
Well,
you get me at all.
thank you for taking the time out. We do appreciate. I mean, it looks like a lot of work because the arrangements are different. But if it's anything like the last one, I'm sure it'll be absolutely stunning.
Well, they are a good band. They are a really good band. The drummer's great. The bass player's fantastic. The guitarist's very good. Ricardo is very musical, and he's very good as well. And I think he sort of MDs it all.
Yeah.
And in my absence, and then I'll steam in at the last minute and get the hatchet out and tear a lot of holes in it, and then it'll be what it is. And all I can hope is that it works as well as last time, because last time was really magical. It was.
Are there plans to record it again?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
I think they're going to film it as well again.
Yeah. And how are things going in the early days of the Marillion album?
Fine, everybody's getting on well. There's a good feeling in the room. It's all pretty cordial. The producer hasn't threatened to quit or commit suicide yet, which is good. Of course, it'll happen at some point, but not yet. No, it's early days. We're just jamming. We drive in, we faff about for an hour, and then we go, yeah, I think it's enough, and we go home again. So whether what we get is worth the petrol money, it's hard to know. You've just got to stick with it, and experience shows that eventually you dig down through all of the shale, and you hit a seam eventually, and then good things start to happen all at once. But you can't make that happen at the beginning for whatever reason. You have to arrive there. So we're at the very, very, very thinnest end of a very, very long wedge at the moment.
Was there any thought about doing a kind of interim album a la Friends with the Orchestra or Less is More, just to give you a bit of a break in between the big colossal thing of writing new albums from scratch?
No, but there is a bit of an idea on the back burner. I don't know. I'll get lynched if I talk about it, probably. But
it's all right. We'll smooth it up with Lucy, don't worry.
Yeah. But if I open my mouth, it doesn't mean it'll happen anyway, because we already thought about it. The last album, we had some songs which we were at various stages of completion when we were writing it out before it's dark, that felt very different to it. Felt very kind of separate, but were still good tunes and had a certain feeling about them, but maybe not the feeling that the album had. And we had, I don't know, we had 3 or 4 of those. So Mike was talking about maybe during the writing sessions, once we've really got going with the jams, to maybe take an hour or an hour or two out of each day, return to those songs and work them up a bit more, with a view to maybe not including them on the next album, but putting out an EP or something at some
You
point.
don't say the EP word.
I'll say the EP. Well, an extended player
No,
or
that would be great. I think
a reduced an RA, a reduced album,
that'd be great. Yeah.
an alternative, like another window into what the band can do.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the full-on monster prog statements that we're known for, but perhaps something a bit more, whimsical and also maybe something that we perform in the room together rather than build up with
Yeah.
technology. The last few albums have been built up that way. So they've been recorded as they've been written, and they've expanded into what they've become. And nobody's really known how the songs go till they've heard the mixes. And we've had to learn them. So this would be more a case of arriving at a song, learning it, and then playing it in the room and recording it in like the old days.
Into oldies.
That could just be a romantic notion, and it might never happen.
Have you ever thought about the approach that Gabriel's just had with his album, putting a track out each month?
Yeah, we thought about that years and years ago, and someone came up with an excellent reason not to do it, and I can't even remember what it was.
Because it was mad. It's just a
Well,
bad idea.
mine's always good, It's just that if doing something like that negates the possibility of something else, whatever that something else might be, then you got to weigh that up. This is a bit of a vague answer because I don't remember the details, but I remember someone going, "The trouble with doing this is da 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 da," and everybody going, "Oh yeah." So we didn't, but it's good. It's good that I mean, Peter's always done stuff out. He's always thought outside the box, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And he's always spent hideous sums of money on everything.
Because he could afford it.
Well, he's done it. But
I
he's
don't
done
think
it.
he always could, It's just that he never let the money get in the way of a
No.
good idea. He would he'd spend it and to hell with the money. He was a bit like I knew a guy called Steve Hedges who managed him for a while, and he just said, I can't manage him anymore because he's got no notion of money, and he's driving me crazy, and I can't sleep, and he just does things that are probably going to bankrupt him, but somehow he always seems not quite to do it. So I admire that sort of pure artistic spirit he's got, and that sort of energy to find a way of doing things that most people perhaps would be scared to do. I admire that in him. He's a nice fellow.
It split the fans. I think there were quite a lot of fans that quite liked they were right because he's also run it alongside a page like a Patreon type platform where you can pay a monthly fee and you're getting different mixes as well. I've really enjoyed it, and the album at the end of it is wonderful. But I know some people have been kind of switched off by having to wait another month for another track, but it's certainly kept it in the media from what I've seen.
Yeah, well, that'll have been part of the idea, no doubt, because it does become harder and harder the older you get to maintain any media interest and to effectively promote a record.
You're still coming up with new ideas and ways to get traction in the media.
Yeah, I think we've got Lucy and Mark Kelly to thank for that. They sort of they're the outside the box thinkers, and I mean, I'm just can't be bothered with it. I really can't. I've arrived at that. Look, put me on the horse and I'll ride the national, but I'm not mucking it out. I don't care what color it is. I'm not studying form. I
Just leave us to do me thing.
Put me on the horse.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. I'm not interested. I've arrived at that place.
See, I work to say with Trevor Horn on these last two albums. Is it giving you an itch to scratch to do some more covers, to do even a cover album yourself with him, or would it be
I don't
tempting?
know. Trevor's one of those people who's going to do what he's going to do, and if he wakes up one day and decides he'd like to he'd make a record of any kind with me, he'll phone me up and ask me if I'd like to do it, and I'll say yes because I'm totally in awe of him. If he tells me to jump, I'll ask him how high and in which direction. I've got immense respect for Trevor. So I would always be available to get involved in anything he'd like me to get involved with. I mean, some of the records he's made those Seal albums are just exquisite. Some of his work has been just shockingly good, and has been almost the sound of the 80s, the Slave to the Rhythm, Hello, Shut the Fridge. That's it. So, yeah, I mean, I'll just do or not do whatever Trevor wants. It's a great privilege to work with him. When I heard the finished mix of Drive, I thought, I don't know about that. I'll have to listen to that again. And by the time I'd heard it 4 times, as all the subtleties and the things that are creeping into that arrangement that I never even noticed the first time, it's exquisite.
It's a really good take on the song, really is.
Great. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, all I've done is sung, but he's built what he's built around my voice is amazing because he completely rewrote the song after I sang it. I went in and I sang a version of, I mean, obviously I knew the song really well. I went in and sang it, and then he completely tore it down, started again, turned it inside out, changed all the chords, changed everything about it, and then came back to me and he said, I've changed this song so much, I can't get your vocal to sit on it anymore because I've chopped it up I've chopped it up so much. Would you come back and sing it again to what I've now done? And I said, yeah, of course I will. So I went again, and he played me this utterly different, what was another song really, and I sang it again, according to what he'd now done, and then didn't hear another peep out of him for about 18 months, and then was presented with it as a finished thing. And it is really beautiful, and it doesn't get in the way of the voice much. It really lets my voice be heard.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'd love to do something else with him, but I know that he's so linked into the great and the good. I mean, you can't mention anyone. You can't. I mean, you can't mention anyone. I mean, I think I mentioned the Queen one night. Oh yeah. I was at the Palace last year. Yeah, anyone, anyone. Sting, Rod Stewart, Paul McCartney. Oh yeah, Paul, very nice. We had dinner yesterday. That kind of thing. So you can't mention anyone. Because he's either just had tea with them or just halfway through an album with them, that you didn't know about.
His book's very good. His book's very good.
Is it?
Yeah, it's great.
I've heard a lot of stuff that he probably wouldn't have dreamt of putting in his book from Lewis Jardine. Lewis has grassed him up fairly right.
Yeah, here's the real story.
Yeah.
This one hasn't been polished.
Lewis goes right back to the beginning with Trevor. Pubs in East London owned by the Crays in the 60s when they used to play together. So, yeah, Lewis goes right back to the beginning.
Wow. He knows where the bodies are buried.
Yes, and he knows who buried them.
So this year's recording in the studio with the band. I know a certain guitarist has got a few dates that he's about to announce weekends of, and that's not pleased Lucy. Does that mean that you might be allowed a few pass outs to do a few more H naturals over the year?
Yes and no. I mean, as I keep saying, I think I say yes to too many things. There's barely a day goes by without something doesn't drop in my inbox going, oh, this amazing festival on a mountain in Portugal and blah, and wouldn't it be great if you came and blah, and oh, I've found this wonderful, wonderful gig in Spain, and and wouldn't it be great if you came and it's so easy for me to go, it sounds fantastic, count me in. But the reality is, when it gets there, the additional stress in your life, when you're already trying to do other things, and the toll it takes on my family.
Yeah.
I have to be a bit careful. So I might, who knows? I mean, I know that Trevor's been announced as headlining Property on the Friday in August. Now, he hasn't phoned me up and asked me if I want to do it, or if I can do it, or if I'm available. Or, I don't even know if he wants me in the band.
But there's a chance.
I imagine it's quite likely, because in the past I've sang quite a few things with him, and I don't know, maybe he's got someone in mind he's going to get in to sing. I mean, who's going to sing Drive if he doesn't get me to do it? But maybe he'll find someone. Like I say, he is very well connected, like Robbie Williams to do it.
I'm sure he'll call you nearer the time. I'd love to hear your version of you sang "I'm Not in Love," didn't you, on the tour?
Yeah,
I'd love to hear that.
What a blast singing that with Lal playing the piano next to me. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
Amazing.
But it's good that you get the chances like this outside, where you wouldn't have thought a couple of years ago that you'd be involved in that. And it's
great privilege to have been asked to work with Trevor. Very amazing, and who knows where it might lead. You just never know. I mean, I'm very mindful of the fact that after he made that second Seal album, it came out and it was doing all right, but it wasn't selling shed loads. And then Kiss from a Rose appeared on that Batman movie.
Batman film, yeah.
And overnight, Seal became this big star, and the album was selling in bucket, quite rightly, because it's an amazing record, selling in bucket loads and on everybody's coffee tables from here to Timbuktu.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
That's it.
Something like that can happen. When you work with Trevor, there's always that possibility of things turning up in amazing places. So I just got to cross my fingers and hope one of those the unseen hand doesn't smother that.
Get back.
But at least the unseen hand hasn't had his finger in that, at least. So that's
So much to my amazement, I was waiting, but no, it's not strangled that yet.
You haven't used the unseen hand as an episode title for the Corona Diaries yet, have you? Because I think we'll use it for this.
Fair enough. Yeah, you can have it.
How's that going? Because you finished the diaries now, haven't you?
Yeah, I found a bit more. I found a bit more diary from the pandemic tour, actually. The tour immediately post-pandemic that Marillion did. I'd written a bit more, so I'm not sure how much more of it I've got. But I've been reading kids' books and The Duck in the Tree and Room on the Broom and stuff as well.
Is there still a plan to edit the diary together as an audiobook then?
Absolutely. I'd be mad not to, because I've now got it.
You've done the work now, yeah.
Done the work, the what would otherwise have been a zillion hours of work to read it, because it's so long. It is there, but I'm just balking at, well, I've got to get this Rome show out of the way first.
Yes.
And then maybe maybe I'll have a little bit of time in between making the next Marillion album and recording this podcast once a week. I might find a bit of time to start assembling that.
Could it not be an Ant-shot production? Is that not something you can farm out to Ant?
Farm out? I don't know. I haven't asked him. I mean, he's not. He doesn't just sit at home with his feet in the air.
No, I'm sure he doesn't. No.
I could, I could farm it out, couldn't I? I'm not very good at delegating. I'm a control freak.
Why not?
Well, look, Steve, thank you very much for your time. It's been great to talk to you.
Pleasure.
We are so honoured to have you on the podcast. I'm sure you've not heard any of our
Rubbish
guff that we put out.
I haven't, to be honest.
Keep it that way, I would, yeah. It's probably better for it. Probably better.
Look, if you don't listen to mine, I won't listen to yours.
Oh, I do. I've heard yours in the car this afternoon. I'm one of the purples, so yeah.
The least I can do is ever listen to you. I'll ever listen first chance I get.
No.
But not the one with me on. I'll listen to one when I'm not on.
There's one with Lucy. We've got an hour of Lucy with Ian coming in at the end.
Okay, that's probably fair.
Yeah. But no, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it, and keep doing what you do. We'd love it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Toodle pip.
Well, that was fantastic, wasn't it? It was great to have Steve on.
legend.
Great of him to allow us the time to chat to us, and I hope you all enjoyed that. We are so honoured to have Steve on the podcast, and there's not much more to say apart from
it's good night from me.
Oh, and it's good night from him. Take care.
And stay alive.
Thanks for listening to Planet Marzipan Podcast. Please like and subscribe from whichever platform you get your podcasts from. You can contact us at planetmarzipanpodcast@gmail.com. Then check out Marillion.com, fishmusic.scot or fishmusic.eu for all the good stuff.